Chapter 15 of the Immaculate Conception of the Mother of God through Divine Power. The divine wisdom had now prepared all things for drawing forth the spotless image of the Mother of Grace from the corruption of nature. The number and congregation of ancient patriarchs and prophets had been completed and gathered, and the mountains had been raised on which this mystical city of God was to be built. By the power of his right hand, he had already selected incomparable treasures of the divinity to enrich and endow her. 1,000 angels were equipped for her guard and custody, that they might serve as most faithful vassals of their queen and lady. He had provided a noble and kingly ancestry from whom she should descend, and had selected for her most holy and perfect parents, than whom none holier or more perfect could be found in the world. For there is no doubt that if better and more apt parents existed, the Almighty would have selected them for her, who was to be chosen by God as his mother. He endowed these parents with abundant graces and blessings of his right hand, and enriched them with all virtues, with enlightenments of divine science, and with the gifts of the Holy Ghost. After having announced to the two saints, Joachim and Anne, that he would grant them a daughter, admirable and blessed among women, he permitted the work of the first conception to take place, namely, that of the most pure body of Mary. The age of Anne when she married Joachim was 24, and that of Joachim 46. 20 years they lived in married life without having an issue, and thus Anne, at the same time of the conception of her daughter, was 44 years old, and Saint Joachim 66. Although the conception happened according to the ordinary course of nature, yet the Most High freed it from imperfections and disorders, permitting only what was strictly required according to nature, in order that the proper material might be furnished for the formation of the most perfect substance within the limits of a mere creature. God limited the natural activity in the two parents, and by his grace prevented any fault or imperfection, substituting for them virtue and merit, and entire propriety in the manner of conception, which, though natural and according to the common order, was nevertheless directed, supplemented, and perfected by the action of divine grace, without disturbing the proper effect due to the law of nature. As regards the holy matron Anne, the divine power was more manifest on account of her natural sterility. In her, the conception was miraculous, not only in regard to the manner, but in regard to its very substance. In regard to the conceptions which happen entirely according to the natural order, and in virtue of the natural powers, there is no necessity of recurring to or of depending on any supernatural cause. The parents, in concurring, are sufficient causes of the propagation, even in case they furnish the material and the concurrent acts of generation with imperfection and without proper measure. But in this conception, although the father was not naturally sterile, yet on account of his age and moderation, his natural powers were in a measure suppressed and weakened, and therefore he was enlivened, restored, and enabled to act on his part with entire perfection and with the plenitude of his faculties, proportionately to the sterility of the mother. In both of them nature and grace concurred, the former briefly with measure and in that which was necessary, the latter overflowingly, powerfully, and generously, absorbing yet not confounding nature, exalting it and perfecting it in a miraculous manner. Thus grace was the origin of this conception, while it called into its service the activity of nature in so far as was necessary for the birth of that ineffable daughter from her natural parents.